I'm Nick Pruitt. I'm coming from Eastern Nazarene College in Quincy, Massachusetts. My research project currently is considering Christian nationalism during the 1950s, often what's referred to as the Second Red Scare. So this is coming right after World War II, growing fears of communism, supposed communist infiltration. And I'm looking at how different Christian groups, institutions, communities responded to that, but also interpreted events in the 50s through that lens of the United States or America being a Christian nation. Currently, my argument is that there are many manifestations of what Christian nationalism looks like. I'm looking at different pockets of American Christianity, and so we're talking evangelical, mainline, liberal, even more fundamentalist. This is the kind of central location or archives for mainline material, especially the PCUSA. I've been using a lot of resources here that have helped give me a little insight into how they view communism in the 1950s, how they're responding to a lot of the more right-wing anti-communist movements, but also trying to interpret what is their role in America during a time of crisis. PHS provides me with a really helpful kind of avenue of research for all things kind of mainline and all things Presbyterian in the 1950s. I love going to the archives because you end up finding stories that you didn't even know were going on. But I did come these last 2 weeks with the hope of finding stuff relating to, for instance, changes to the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954, where the words "under God" are included. And I've occasionally seen references to that in sermons or correspondence. But I also was looking for not only what's happening among the leadership of the church, but what are people just going about their daily lives, attending church on Sunday. How do they feel about the 1950s, the Second Red Scare, communism, Christian nationalism? And so I wanted to try to have a very broad approach and look. And that was what I was hoping to find, to kind of not just have what the church leaders are saying, but what are the people in the pews saying, and how are they interpreting Christian nationalism? One that I found very helpful is collections involving the Council on Church and Society, and this was run through the PCUSA. The leaders there are grappling with this wave of anti-communism and kind of paranoia that's happening in the 1950s, and they're trying to chart a level-headed approach and taking some pretty progressive positions on, for instance, the United Nations, critiques of like Joseph McCarthy and anti-communism. And what I've discovered, particularly in that collection, is a lot of pushback from church members who are basically saying, you don't represent us, you are too liberal. So it gives me a really helpful vantage point to see many different perspectives at work, even within the PCUSA. I'm not local, and so just getting here and having the funding is a tremendous help. Every historian says they need, so much time to research, but in my field of the 20th century, there's just so much documentation. The levels of bureaucracy in the church means there are a lot of documents to sift through, and so I really do need that precious time. I was very grateful to receive the fellowship, which allowed me to spend 2 solid weeks here to really invest in the material. Otherwise, it would have been a much shorter trip if I didn't have that funding. The PHS archives are just a vital collection for what I'm doing.